Greetings and bienvenue, crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Have you ever experienced anything creepy, odd, or just plain unexplainable while in a woods? It doesn't have to necessarily be paranormal, but simply unnerving and out of place.
I'll preface my story by saying I'm a 30-60 believer in the paranormal. I think most of it is our minds messing with us in situations we're not normally in. So last weekend I went camping, maybe like 7 miles from the trailhead, 3 miles past the last maintained trail. On our hike back to our car, my friend saw something through the trees from the river we were following. He got excited, took off his pack, and started climbing to get closer. He called me over and I said no because I was wary of excitedly approaching something without any sort of background info. He got up to what turned out to be the entrance to an old mine and yelled for me to join with and to bring my phone and headlamp to take pics. I was hesitant because I just had a weird feeling about it. After some peer pressure, I hesitantly climbed up. We took a few steps in and lit up as much as we could with our headlamps. The mine went deep, but I didn't want to go in any further. I took some pictures, reviewed them to make sure they weren't blurry, and stepped back out and put my phone in my pocket. We made our way back to the river, and no longer than a minute after having left the mine, I took my phone out to take a picture of a beautiful area we were walking through. My phone was dead. The screen wouldn't even turn on to that low battery symbol, just completely dead. I kept fooling around with my phone trying to bring it back to life since I thought it was odd that I had 60% battery left no more than 5 minutes previous. My friend saw me fidgeting around and asked what was going on. I told him what happened and he started freaking out, saying the ghost grabbed the energy and all that shit. We ended up hooking my phone to an external battery my friend had, and it finally turned on maybe 30 minutes later. Missed some good shots. Anyway, not scary at all, but definitely tripped me out a bit and got me thinking. Pic related. Apparently a bunch of people have died in that mine. Supposedly it goes it pretty deep and then branches off to deeper places. Another pic related.
Be trespassing with friend. Innawoods. Signs posted everywhere saying, "Do not trespass. Trespassers will be shot on sight." Pretty deep in about 30 minutes later, start to see old rusted farm equipment and things of that likeness. Small clearing with a pond in it. Everything around the pond within 5 feet is dead. Slightly weird. Keep going until we hit a creek. Nice little area to rest and hang out. Start to hear what sounds like an ATV. Think, oh shit, we gonna die. Walk across the creek and the noise gets louder. Start to hide in the tall grass. The sound is loud now. Looking around and spotting something blue. Just stare at it. Oh shit, it's the four-wheeler. Tell my friend to stand up with my hands in the air. We both do so and start walking towards the noise. Getting closer about 20 feet away. Blue is extremely shiny and noise is extremely loud. Almost right up on the blue thing when we realize it's our bikes. Noise suddenly stops. WTF just happened. Went back a week later and the spots we went to were in a straight line. Takes 30 minutes to get to the pond and an hour to get to the creek.
Be me. Out fishing. Standing on a small bridge at night minding my own business. Feeling of being watched multiple times. I'm not the scared kind of person, but naturally I turn around and look. Nobody there the first couple of times I look. 4th or 5th time, someone is standing a few meters uphill from the bridge looking at me. Stare at him for a good 20 seconds. Kind of shocked that he's just standing there in the darkness. Pass him off as someone walking his dog, even though this is a fairly remote place. Continue fishing. Look back after a minute or so. He's still just standing there. Cast my 80-gram Savage Gear wobbler once more. Look back, and he's gone. No longer worried, I continue my fishing. An odd feeling returns after 5 minutes. I look back, and there he is, standing a few meters further away compared to before. No dog in sight. I turn around and almost yell at him. "Can I help you? What are you looking for or at?" No answer. Look at the water and rip my SG wobbler out of the seagrass before it's lost forever. Turn around again. He came closer this time. Have odd feeling of fear and anger. Decide it's time to end my fishing trip. It's too dark to see anything anyway. Start packing my shit. When I look up, he's gone. Walk back on shore. Turn sharp left, see him standing a good 20 meters away from the road uphill to the right. I turn right and start walking, and have a good 25 minutes walking distance to do. Getting fairly disturbed by his presence and general creepy act, so I look back every other step I take. He's standing at the end of the road doing nothing whatsoever. Repeat the two-step look-back tactic for almost 5 minutes. Can see the silhouette of him standing in the same spot as before. Take a couple of steps and look back. Literally drop all my fishing equipment on the ground as I see him running towards me at top speed. The fear really kicks in. He's approaching me way faster than he should be able to. Grab my silly tiny fishing knife out of my pocket. Bring it on. He's so close I can see him clearly now. 20 meters max. I take a deep breath and swallow my spit, prepared for whatever is going to hit me. I blink my eyes one last time. When I open them, he's gone. Nowhere to be seen. Spend 2 minutes standing completely still trying to find a silhouette in the darkness, or catch a noise from someone or something moving. Nothing. Pick up my shit and leave. Spend 15 minutes walking with severe anxiety and paranoia.
I was with a buddy who brought a friend who grew up in Chicago and apparently had never ventured outside the city. We were on a long weekend here in Oklahoma, doing some goose hunting since it was the winter season, and I had 3 weeks off. My buddy had a few weeks off, and his friend visiting from Chicago had 2 weeks off. I gave his friend the 20 gauge, since she wasn't all that big of a person, and loaned my buddy one of my extra 12 gauges I have. We get out to my land about 1 hour before dawn and get set up in the hunting blind, a large converted school bus that is covered and partially buried. We weren't there 15 minutes, about the time the blind started warming up from the portable heater I brought, when we heard a fox scream maybe 30 yards away inside the tree line. She freaked out, and I heard the click of a trigger being pulled. I am so glad she didn't load a shell, because she muzzle flashed my buddy when she did it. After getting her calmed down and assuring her it was just a fox, we both proceed to lecture her about how she could have just shot him because she got spooked.
This happened about 3 weeks ago. 2 a.m., chilling in a park with a friend. We were there for about 90 minutes. Suddenly there's a bright blue flash about eye level 30 feet from our left and a crack sound. It was like a camera flash, but blue, and kind of concentrated, like it didn't illuminate the area. Look around. Nobody is creeping and taking photos. I thought maybe someone had a motion detecting camera in their backyard, which faces the park. Does that exist? But I went back the next day and didn't see anything. It was especially spooky because about 10 minutes before that, my friend was telling me about the time she saw a UFO above the school on her street. Oh, just remembered this. Same park 2 days ago. Find a walkie-talkie on the ground, which didn't work. 10 feet away was a bicycle just knocked over on its side. For some reason I felt creeped out, so I left everything but told my dad about it. He went down later that evening, maybe 6 hours after me. The bike is still there, but he had our puppy, so he couldn't take the bike. He couldn't find the walkie-talkie. The next day I decided I wanted the bike. It's gone. I don't know if it's worth thinking about, but there's something unsettling about finding a bike in perfect condition, abandoned for a whole day. The walkie-talkie just made me assume someone got abducted.
I've got a few, but I'm posting from a phone, so it's hard to pump out stories. I used to stay at my cousin's farm every summer until I turned 16. Weren't actually of blood, just very good family friends. Their farm was in northern Wisconsin, a couple dozen acres, no communities for dozens of miles. The closest neighbor was 10 minutes by car. Cornfields on the east and west. South is thickets and ponds. North is forest and forest until you reach the Great Lake. Big farmhouse near the road to the west. Huge garage fit for 4 cars to the south of the farmhouse. Massive machine shed for harvesters and other farm vehicles to the east. Shoddy, creepy barn to the north with a big sheep paddock surrounding it. Sheep paddock had a couple old wells and old building foundations in it. Apparently the original farmhouse was burned down in the 50s because a sheep caught on fire during a bonfire and ran into some haystacks near the house. Fortunately, nobody died. A big courtyard and garden is connected all the buildings with a chicken coop isolated between the machine shed and barn. Enough describing the farm. Me and my cousins used to play this Night Stalker game, which played at night involved a seeker and hiders. The hiders could be converted into seekers once found in order to speed the game up. No flashlights or anything, just the stars and moon to guide you. About 10 in this particular incident, usually paired up with my cousin Lilith, who was the same age as me. There's 5 of us in total. Chance, 16, Lou, 13, Pete, 12, Lilith, 10, and me, 10. Lou is the seeker, so he starts the countdown. Chance was the jack-of-all-trades sort, good at everything, total drag to compete against. Was an amazingly talented ventriloquist, could imitate your voice, a celebrity's voice, then make it sound like it's coming from across the farm, or even right next to you. Chance is already laying a false trail by throwing rocks and shouting in different voices in different directions. Pete peels off north towards the barn. Will probably fall out of a tool shed or something right as the seeker walks by. Lilith looks to me since we usually pair up because muspoops. Decide I'm old enough to night stalk on my own. Run off and she follows me. Run east. We always start at the farmhouse. Then juke her and sling around the garage and cross the road. Most of the ditch is waterlogged and there's only one dry spot. A weird long rock to squat on which I jump to. Actually have pretty great view of the farm, save the southeastern quadrant shadowed by the farmhouse and garage. Pete and Lilith are nowhere to be seen, but see Lou run into the machine shed. See movement on the shed, chances on the roof. How the hell? It's about 25 feet up just to the rafters. Can see from the moonlight that he has the greatest shit-eating grin imaginable. Says Lilith, come on this way. Imitating my voice in a muffled way that sounds like it's coming from behind the shed. Lou comes running out and runs around to the eastern field, out of view behind the shed. Lilith runs out of the shed shortly after, looking frightened, runs out of my sight again. Listening to the hijinks for a while, Lou finds Pete in the chicken coop because Pete yelled when a rooster pecked him. Oh, Pete.mp3. Pete is now helping Lou look for me, Chance, and Lilith. By now, Chance is gone from the roof. I'm still on this rock in a ditch, damn it. I heard something slide out of the corn and into the water, probably Lilith, but I was too intent on watching Pete, who was probably the best seeker next to Chance, creeping between the road and farmhouse. Glance towards it, make out a dim form sloshing towards me in the gross ditch water. Lilith, cut it out, you'll give us away. Hear a sound of confirmation as she climbs onto the rock and huddles up against me, but I'm too busy watching Pete getting closer to the road. Suddenly hear a scream, higher pitched than any boy could make. Forgot to mention, one thing Chance couldn't imitate was his little sister Lilith's voice. He was hitting puberty and she was way too shrill and obnoxious. Lilith bursts from a bush right next to Pete and sprints away. Wait, what? Warm body against mine. Who? Yell, flail around, jump off the rock, slip and splash in the water. Scramble up into the road. Turn around, the rock is vacant. What the fug? Heart pumping, who the hell was that? Jog to the paddock, about to climb under the fence when suddenly I lock eyes with Lou on the other side. Just then, Pete yells for Lou from inside the barn that he's got Chance cornered. Run away. Lou isn't following. Look to see him take a side door into the barn. It always took him and Pete or one of them and both me plus Lilith to catch Chance at the end. Door fucking closes itself. JKLL Chance hid behind the door and locked it on Lou. Chance runs off, follows him, meaning to tell him what just happened. He's faster than me, gone when I round to the other side of the barn. Hear door juggling. Dive into the sheep's feeding trough. Look up, Chance is clinging to the trough's roof. It was like a big sheep buffet line, like a Navy SEAL, shushing me. Lou and Pete exit and circle the trough, talking all tactical. Chance calls in his own voice, "Anon, run," but from the other side of the barn. Pete and Lou are chatting and decide not to fall for it again. He only does that when we're close. Anon just went into the machine shed anyways. No, I'm right here, what? Chance drops from the ceiling onto me, knocking the wind out of me. Pulls me up. Anon's right here, that's not him. First time I've heard Chance sounding scared. "Haha, caught you guys," Pete shouts. "Sure it wasn't Lilith? They're both small," interjects Lou. "Chance." I wheezed out. I thought I was with Lilith earlier in the ditch, but it wasn't. I never even looked at her properly, but she was across the street getting chased by Pete at the same time. Lou and Pete ignore me. Yeah, anyways, I'm pretty sure Lilith is in the barn. I chased her in there, but you know she's like a cat. You could walk right by her in the dark and you'd never know she's there. Maybe she got out. What are you guys talking about? Lilith pokes her head from a second-story window in the barn. Pete points at her and shouts, "Game over, I win." "You dipshit, I won. I'm the seeker. You all just lost." Lou interjects again. "Actually, you never tagged me. Anyways, Chance is still in here too. You have to get both of us." "No, I'm right here. I haven't been in the barn at all tonight." Chance pokes his head from the trough, still looking bothered, so Lilith can see him. Her eyes bulge and she screams, prepares to jump out the window in terror. "Lily, stop!" Chance climbs out of the trough, catches Lilith, and they both hit the ground. She's hysteric. "Who is that? Who is that? Who is that? Ha ha." "You're seeing things, Lily. Don't worry. Don't you dare jump out a window like that again. Mom will kill you." Fear begins to dawn on Pete and Lou's faces. Being farm kids, they're pretty self-confident. Pete pulls a flashlight from his pocket. Lou grabs a pitchfork from the trough. "You really saw somebody, didn't you, Lilith?" Chance says, "Anon, get my dad. I'm going to check the other door." There's 4 doors. The front gate, which is too heavy for a child. Paddock door now locked. Chicken door, which Pete and Lou just left. And 1 door on the north side, which is actually a service port for the grain silo, which they don't use. "Shoulder Lilith. Hurry to the farmhouse. Get my uncle. Tell him there's somebody hiding in the barn." He disappears upstairs, comes back down with a shotgun looking murderous. He tells us to stay, but we follow and leave Lilith in the house with the dog, who is losing his shit at this point, barking at the barn. Shotgun Dad, Bill, opens the front gate with one hand while his boys watch the side doors. Stay at the front gate, don't want to go into the spoopy Christian barn. Climbs the ladder to the second floor, shines his light into the attic. Hear a shout and a thud. "Who the fuck are you?" Silence. "I'll blow your brains out, you touch my damn kids, who are yarg?" Hear a gunshot. Window on other side of the barn gets blown out. Hear another shout at the back of the barn. It's Chance. Run around. Pete is already helping him up. Lou climbed into the barn with the pitchfork. Chance has a pigeon shit footprint square in the middle of his chest. "It ran." He gestures toward the wood to the north, coughing. Bill comes down to us, tells Chance to follow him, the rest of us to get the fuck back inside. Chance takes the fork from Lou, follows Bill to the garage. As me, Lou, and Pete get inside, we see Chance and Bill blast off in an ATV, Chance brandishing the fork like a lance. They're gone for about an hour. The dog has calmed down too. They're both fine. Chance looks scared and Bill is still red. Tells us it was probably some homeless guy. Pete and Lou are shaken but sleep it off. Bill is smothering Lilith with affection, glad she's okay. Chance beckons me into his room after everyone's asleep. Ask why they didn't call the cops. Chance looks unsure but sighs and tells me his dad says he can't tell anyone, especially Lilith. Tells me how a shape came from the top of the silo not even a second after he heard the gunshot. Describes how the shape floated down with the gracefulness of a chicken but hit him like a man, winding him, and heard footsteps pattering until it hopped the fence. They didn't go north but east instead. Bill seemed to know there were 2 of them. The bigger one regrouped with whatever they saw run into the machine shed, the presumably smaller one that sat next to me on the rock. Describes how Bill herded these 2 things together, like cattle, and ushered them off the property but wouldn't get close to them or let Chance get a decent view, wouldn't use lights or anything. Says his dad's reaction to the situation completely changed after Chance got kicked. Says he got calm and was almost acting on protocol, like he just knew what to do. Finn. Sorry for stringing it out so long, I'm not the best at writing. That was the most intense thing that happened to me there. But weird shit still goes on at the farm. The kids are all off in college now and Bill is trying to sell the place. I kinda want to visit one last time. I spent my childhood there.
Grandpa is a farmer. Some of his property is forested. In the forest is a cabin that he and his father built. Cabin is the go-to spot for family campouts, hikes, etc. Everybody calls part of the forest the dead forest, but nobody knows why. Everything is pretty alive. We used to build little forts out of fallen branches, only to come back and find forts that we didn't build. Weird arrangements of broken branches high in trees. One night, everybody is in the cabin playing cards. Mom exits the cabin to use the outhouse. For some reason, the outhouse only locks from the outside. Locking people in is a common prank, enough that people usually take in a branch to get out. Mum has been gone for a while. We're too into playing Uno or WE to bother locking her in. Eventually, she comes back in, angrily wondering who locked her in. Simple latch lock could not have locked itself. A bit north of the cabin is a stone foundation. Not even my grandpa seems to know about it. Every now and then, we find shattered deer skeletons in it. Despite the vaguely spooky stuff that happened there, the place never felt threatening. But after a certain point, our family stopped going there.
My dad has a house in the mountains, right in a national forest. Besides for a few neighbors, it's pretty secluded. There's lots of thick forests around and plenty of no-pee spots. We have seen and heard most of the wildlife out there. Bears, mountain lions, coyotes, foxes, and other shit like skunks and snakes. One time we went up there. We brought my buddy with us. We couldn't sleep during the last night there, so we went outside for some fresh air. It was around 1 in the morning, and it was very quiet outside. All of a sudden, we hear a howling, high-pitched scream out in the forest to our left, maybe 25 to 30 feet away in the thicket. I've heard bears, cougars, and all the weird sounds foxes and skunks can make, so I can say that what I heard was not one of those things. Me and my buddy looked at each other dumbfounded. I said, maybe it's one of the neighbor's dogs that got loose. As soon as I say that, we hear the high-pitched howl scream again. It was getting closer. By this point, we were sure it wasn't a dog or coyote. There are not any wolves in the area of the house, so it wasn't a wolf. The scream was guttural, yet high-pitched. Not a growl or anything, it was a screeching howl. Me and my buddy just said, "That's no fucking dog." I decided to try and answer whatever was out there in the thicket, so I yelled out in the best imitation of it that I could. I yelled, "Ah, hurroo!" Not even before I finished it yelled back at me, louder and closer. Me and my friend decided enough was enough, and we ran inside and slammed the door. I stayed at the door with my ear right up against it, trying to hear anything. All I heard was the creature, or whatever it was, continue its howling as it kept moving past our house. It got even higher in pitch as it got farther away. We went outside again after an hour, and there was nothing out there. I've heard from the neighbors that live up there year-round that they have heard the howling too. One of them says she's seen a tall black humanoid down a hill near our homes, and that her dogs were scared shitless. And she has huge-ass dogs. I think it was a Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever. We think it just wandered through the area, because earlier that day, we were riding our dirt bikes and stopped by a creek where there were a bunch of cows just chilling. All of a sudden, they looked up a hill and just bolted in the opposite direction. It could have been anything, but there's some shit out there.
Be walking through the woods when I was 15 back in the mid-late 90s. Huge-ass forest stretching like forever near my place. Walk for an hour sightseeing. Come to a bit of a clearing. Everything looks kinda off about it the further I go. Notice the grass looks like carpet. A big green carpet stretching out like some kind of fake grass. Checking it out closer, and the flowers growing from the shaggy carpet are fake too. Walking further towards the trees and notice they look off. They aren't normal trees, but fake-looking trees made of smooth wooden poles like bedposts or some shit. Low-hanging branches are smooth wooden poles with fake leaves sticking off of them. Nothing feels real here, almost as if the entire area is one big living room made to look like a forest. Even the sun looks and feels like a light fixture in the sky. Explore for a bit, scared and weirded out. It continues into the woods like this for as far as I can see. Everything is fake, like furniture mimicking nature. Hear a hollow sound below me, like there was a wooden floor beneath the shaggy grass carpet. Sounds like something or something's moving around under the forest floor. Get out. Looking over my shoulder, paranoid. Return there a week later in the same direction with my friend, cousin and cousin's friend to look for the place again. I can't find it anywhere. For years afterwards, I didn't think about it, and for a long time it felt like it was a distant memory, like a dream, but it happened. I don't know what that place was or what, but it was the single weirdest thing to ever happen to me.
Well, my story is perfectly explainable and real. There is nothing paranormal about it, but it was far scarier than any of the shit on /x/. I am a biology student from Brazil. My class was on a trip to Pantanal, one of the most wonderful jungles in the world, with an amazing biodiversity, a true paradise for a biologist. We were doing a study on the local population of jacares on the rivers. We went at night to the bridges and used a flashlight to see their eyes in the darkness of the river. When you flash their eyes, the eyes flashes a very deep yellow hue. If you see a green hue, it belongs to an onca, a huge, large feline, one of the most powerful predators in the world. On the fourth bridge, we stopped our group, just started counting the jacares. I counted 1, 2, 3. On 4, we heard a huge roar coming from the jungle. We could not see it, but it was clearly an onca, and just about 4 or 5 meters away from us. I turned my head and noticed that everyone but me was already inside of the car safely. I run and climb on the back. I turn around trying to see it, but it is too dark, and people are just yelling, "Get in! Get the fuck in!" So I jumped in on my back and closed the door really fast, and we got the hell out of there. The next morning, we went back to the location to check it. We found huge onca footprints exactly where we were. That was by far the scariest situation in my life. Never felt such an adrenaline rush.
Happened to a buddy of mine a few years back. Haven't heard the story since the first few times he told all our friends back then, so I'll do my best. My friend Ken and his friend Steve go hiking on a set of trails near Colgate in Ithaca, New York. Some small trails, other trails are extensive, going deep into the woods. 2 or 3 sweet, decent-sized waterfalls along the trails. Ken and Steve decide to take the deepest trails to the 3rd waterfall. Get out there, right around the midway point, and they notice a smaller path off the beaten trail. They decide to check it out. Down towards the end of it, above the 3rd waterfall, there's a slight ridge. They can see something moving up ahead on the ridge. Creep up and find a sort of clearing, with a big hole dug, some camera equipment set up in trash bags. They find some other gear set up next to a tree. Off to the side was a pile of cigarette butts, like whoever had been there had been digging for days. They decide it's time to leave. On the way back to the main trail, they come across a strange individual. They had a sort of cryptic conversation, seemingly harmless, but at the same time implying some sort of threat. Ken told me at the time, but I've forgotten what he said that the man said. The guy sort of followed them all the way back to their car.
Have you felt like you were lost? Like everything around you in a dark wood just keeps repeating itself? Me and a buddy of mine decided that after a graduation party, we would walk back through the wooded area behind my neighborhood. Faster that way, he says. There isn't going to be enough light from your phone to find the trail all the way back. I know you know this place well, but looking at the ground with just the light from your phone ain't going to help. This was back when you didn't have an LED on every phone there was. It will be all right, he kept assuring me, and I finally said okay. We started out our journey. It was about midnight at this point. The only natural light we had was a little bit bleeding through the treetops from the stars. It didn't help at all. About 30 minutes of walking, the trail begins to thin out a bit and the brush keeps smacking us in the face and legs and arms. We are both cut up pretty bad just from constant kneeling in brush and thorns. Nothing fatal though. We give it about 10 more minutes before we both start to wonder if we are lost. I thought it was going to be okay. I had said finding a nice tree to lean on to catch my breath. It was, it still is. We just have to find a better trail, I think. I remember about 5 minutes back there was a dip in the road. There is a branch to the left that should be the way we need. I must have taken the one to the right. I shrug it off. All right, dude, let's do this then. We get to where the dip was and notice there was water running through it now. It was murky and kind of a dark red color, or that's what I could make out by the light from his phone. Was that like that before? I shake my head. Nope. We go ahead and start down the left trail and he starts getting a little more excited. Yeah, this is it. I knew we weren't too far off. Should be just another hour or so walk from here, he said. It would have taken 4 to 5 hours through the city, mind you. We walked for a solid 10 more minutes and came across something in the trail ahead of us. We stopped to try to make out what it is. I whisper, "What do you think it is?" "I'm not sure." He tries shining his phone's light at it and shouts a little, "Hey!" It was a few deer. They flee when they hear us, and we just started to laugh a little. That was when we heard something behind us. It laughed after we did. At this point, I was starting to feel a little more lost than we were. My friend looked at me and then back behind us. "That wasn't you." "No, I was hoping it was you somehow." He turns and without warning me bolts. I start running after him, seeing the light from his phone pass in front of him, disappearing and then back behind him. I was keeping up, but only for now. We run for about 5 minutes before he slows down. He checks the ground around him to make sure he's going the right way. He goes to run again. "Hey, wait, man. Maybe we just heard an echo or something." He looks at me and sighs. "Yeah, maybe you're right." He looks back behind me, knowing he doesn't want to. I look back with him to see if I can see anything. "Go ahead and laugh again. Maybe it will just help us calm down," I suggested. And he agreed. We both laughed kind of nervously. We don't hear a laugh, but we wait just for confirmation. A minute goes by and we hear crunching from the ground. Small, deliberate steps it sounded like. I nodded at him and we both darted. We ran and ran for a while, stopping for short breaths. I never felt so afraid in my life. I couldn't tell how much time had passed, and I wasn't going to ask my friend to check. I just wanted to get out of those woods. We stopped one more time to get a deep breath and drink some water from a backpack we had kept water in. I took rest against a tree and cracked my neck. "I'm glad I'm in some bit of shape. This shit is still killing me. I've almost tripped like 6 times, I had said. "At least you don't have tendonitis in the ankle. Shit's on fire right now." I rest a few more seconds and then turn to get back on the trail. He's got his phone out, looking at the ground to find it. We should be close now. Hopefully the shit that we heard was all in our heads or just some more deer or something. He looks up at me. "Found it." He looks past me for a couple of seconds and squints his eyes. "What is that?" I look back, hoping he was joking. He wasn't. There was something standing in the trail a few hundred feet back. The night sky and tree line by this point was a little more clear, letting more light in. I couldn't tell the exact height of the creature, but it was taller than us, just a black object laid out onto the night sky. It laughed the same mimicking laugh that we had heard earlier. I couldn't tell if my friend was, but I was frozen with fear. The creature had something in his grasp. It chucked it over us and made a terrible crash through the floor, knocking over a small tree in the end. I finally got enough courage to start back up. I turned around and saw my friend frightened into shock. I grabbed his arm and yelled, "Run, you stupid fuck!" We started to run again and passed up the downed trees and saw that the creature had thrown a large deer. I couldn't tell for sure by passing, but it was safe to say it was a 10-point buck. We ran screaming almost the whole time, hearing the thing behind us running after what I was sure was its next meal. I had lost the water bottle I was drinking from, but didn't care. Our feet were sore, but we didn't care, and I'm sure that we were not going to make it. I saw lights coming from the road ahead, and in triumph I shouted out. My friend had kept up with me, and it sounded like the creature was slowing to a stop. All we heard was the laughing, the mimicking laughter that still haunts my dreams. We made it home.
Not completely Innawoods, but thought it's worth sharing anyways. I was present when this event happened, but I don't really remember much of it. When I was about 3 years old, we used to visit my family in this rancho, farm, in the middle of nowhere in Mexico. Aside from a pretty shitty village nearby, there were nothing but woods and mountains. The farm where we were was really close to this forest that led up to these mountains. You could see the top of the mountain from inside the house. Anyways, there was this one time when we had been visiting, and during the time one of my aunts had been suffering from these occasional panic attacks or seizures of some sort. They were really intense, like a combination between a seizure and an asthma attack. At first they would happen about once or twice a week, but then they started happening every night. Not only that, but they would happen right at midnight. One thing that I do vividly remember was seeing my aunt during one of the attacks. They didn't seem like a natural at all. She looked like she was literally being choked by something. My parents weren't supposed to let me see that as a little kid, but I'm pretty sure they forgot since they were busy tending to my aunt. One night, my Uncle Poland, my favorite uncle, noticed something during one of her attacks while he was looking out the window. He noticed that every time my aunt experienced these attacks, he could see in the very far distance a small little dot of light coming down the mountain. It wasn't like a magical light or anything, but more like a little flame. "It's witchcraft," he would say. At first, no one believed him because he was always such a huge troll, always playing pranks, and when they were successful, he would let out this hilarious troll laugh. But one night he brought the rest of my family to the window and they all saw it. The attacks continued for the next few days. Each night my uncle would observe the little light. This time he noticed the light had a sort of galloping motion to it, as if it were a torch that someone was carrying on a horse coming down the mountain. The attacks continued, and the flame kept coming down the mountain every night at the same time. One morning, my dad, uncle, and a nearby neighbor friend decided that they would ride up to the mountains at midnight at the same time the strangest events occurred. It was around 11 p.m. that night when they readied the horses that night and rode off into the woods. It would take them about an hour to reach the point where the torch would come before it disappeared. It was midnight and the group was approaching the point where the torch would be, but all of a sudden, all of the horses just stopped. It was as if they had hit an invisible wall. They had to hop off the horses because they wouldn't keep still and kept neighing or whatever. When they got off the horses, they began to hear this growling sound coming from the trees all around them. It growl wasn't just coming from one place, but it seemed to come from every direction all at once. My uncle, dad, and neighbor noped out of there and came back. Next, they contacted a priest from the village to bless the house and take a look at my aunt, and at the end of the week, my aunt moved into the city with our other family in hopes that the attacks would stop. Thankfully, this worked, and my aunt didn't really experience anything after that. I'm not sure if they were ever able to figure out what it was or if someone had cursed my aunt, but that's all the details from the story that I know based on what my family has told me. No one lives in that farmhouse anymore, but we still own the land. No one has really gone there since they moved out.
It all started when I was a kid. My family went camping up near Canada. We were having a good time roasting marshmallows and all that other happy family fun shit until these fucking eyes started appearing everywhere. They just surrounded us. When someone first noticed them, we all shat bricks, then entire smokehouses when we saw they were progressing toward us. They were attracted to all of the food. When we heard one of them start hissing, we booked it out of there, left our tents, all of our food, our backpacks, everything. Came back the next day for some stuff and the camp was destroyed and all of our food ripped out of the packs. Ever since then, they've never left me alone. I live near the woods now and I go out for a smoke occasionally and start seeing the eyes. If I don't feed them for a while, I start hearing the claws scratching down on the window. Then the eyes, it's like they're surrounding the fucking house. I tried killing one, but that just makes them angrier, starting throwing fucking rocks into my house, scratched my Hummer up. It's like they know my weaknesses. Fuck your skinwalkers and fuck your Sam Squanch, because raccoons are the real danger out there. They'll eat you out of house and home trying to keep them satisfied and from clawing out your eyes. You'll be the one with the out-of-fucking-body experience when you see your bank account balance. Those greedy bastards start out eating cheap $2 hot dogs and move their way up to expensive steak cuts that cost $14 a pack. They'll start closing in on you until they force you to get the good shit you were saving for a rainy day out of the freezer. I can't take this shit anymore, guys.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.